Hello CoinOpTV viewers, this is James coming to you with a preview for Marvel Heroes Omega, which is set for full release on May 23rd on PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One release somewhere down the road, which has not yet been announced. This preview is based on the closed beta, which will be ending very shortly at the time of this video is being published, as well as my own observations as a PC player who has been playing Marvel Heroes since its launch in 2013. So for this preview, we're going to set out to answer two different questions. First, what is Marvel Heroes Omega for anybody who's not familiar with the franchise? And also, how does it compare to the PC version of the game, which is currently available on Steam? So to get started on answering the first question, Marvel Heroes Omega is an isometric view, free-to-play MMO action RPG in the Diablo 2 or Diablo 3 style. And that, of course, raises its own question, which is how free-to-play is this free-to-play title? Because as most people know, most MMOs that are free-to-play actually mean pay-to-win. And the good news here is that it is truly free-to-play. That is to say, you can experience all the in-game content without spending a dime. You can play the story mode, you can play the terminals, Midtown Manhattan plus Industrial City and Hightown when those are released without opening your wallet at all. There is nothing that you can spend money on that will impact your gameplay or the gameplay of people around you. The closest you'll get to this is the ability to buy boosts, which will give you more experience points, but since the game has a hard level cap at level 60, all you're really doing is getting to the end game faster. But here's the thing. At the moment, there is no end game in the PlayStation 4, and even in the PC version, the end game is kind of minimal. Which means most of what you'll be doing in this game is playing the story mode, or going through Midtown Manhattan or the terminals grinding for gear. You will gradually increase the difficulty level of the game, similar to, but not exactly like Diablo 3, which will also grant you better gear as you go along. There is currently a hard limit on the level of gear that you can get, although that may change in the future, or at least go up. Although I would not count on it, in all the years that we've had the PC version, the upper limit of gear has remained fairly static. So let's circle back now. As I've already said, this game is truly free to play from a gameplay perspective, but obviously they need to make money somehow, so what is locked behind a paywall? And the answer to that is the characters. Now you'll get one or two characters for free, and you can pick from almost all of the characters on the roster, with the exception of, say, Spider-Man, Deadpool, some of the more popular characters, as you would expect. But the flip side to this is there are actually 3 characters who cost less than the other characters, and if you want, you can get 2 of those characters instead of 1 of the other characters. Whether or not you decide to do that is entirely up to you. It's also worth noting you do not have to pick these characters sight unseen. You will be able to play every single character that is available at launch up to level 10. Keeping in mind that level 10 is really not going to be high enough to tell you how the character is going to play once they hit max level, which is 60, but it will give you a decent idea of whether or not it's a character for you. Having said all that, if you are going to be a free-to-play gamer in this game, I highly recommend that you just pick a character that you like. And there's more good news here, which is that as you play through the game, you will get in-game currency, separate from gold, but another in-game currency, which will allow you to unlock further characters. The bad news is you only get 1 or 2 of these currency every, let's say, 7 or 8 minutes, and you need about 400 per character. So assuming that you already have a character unlocked with your free unlock and there's another character that you really want, your options are to grind out for basically a month, or you can spend some money to unlock them right away, and it's going to cost you around about $9 per character. However, that's a little deceptive because you can only buy currency in certain denominations, $5, $10, $20, etc. Or you can spend a little bit extra and get one of the Founders Packs, which is available on the store right now and presumably will remain on sale as time goes on. The advantage of the Founders Packs is, of course, that they include additional content as well, including some in-game currency, so you can start putting towards another character. Also, they have announced that whenever they release new characters, and Black Cat will be the first of these, that character is only available for either the paid-for currency or a Founders Pack, assuming they release one, for 30 days. You cannot unlock Black Cat or any future released characters for 30 days with the in-game currency. And of course, there are other things to spend money on as well, assuming you buy, say, a $10 pack and you only need $9 for the hero. You can buy costumes for your heroes, which are purely cosmetic. However, a couple of them also change the voices of the characters or some of their powers visually. For instance, you can get Rocket Raccoon from the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you can have his default costume. Or you can have a costume that's from the first movie and will have a movie version of Groot that goes alongside him and has a slightly different voiceover done by Nolan North. or you can get his Guardians of the Galaxy 2 costume, which has Baby Groot as his summon. There is no functional difference between any of these costumes, but they look cool, and they're generally higher quality than the defaults, although the quality of the defaults has gone up significantly in the last several years. And then, as I mentioned, there are other items you can get, such as boosts to increase your experience points, or the gold drops, or things of that nature. And they have their RNG boxes, which are called fortune cards. Now, they're not currently on the market as near as I can tell, but you can expect that they will be arriving, and these are the real money sink, with the exception of storage. And now we're going to talk about this one a little bit, because this is going to be the biggest hang-up that most people are going to have. You have a very limited storage in-game, and every item you pick up is going to count against it. Now, if that item stacks, it only counts against it once, but otherwise, everything counts, except for anything that you have equipped on any of your characters. Storage comes in two flavors. You have the ones that you carry with you, and then you also have a bank back at the various meeting areas. And in the PC version of the game, you have character-specific bank slots for each individual character, which greatly increases the amount of storage capacity you have. And unfortunately, they are missing from the PlayStation 4 version, and this is a huge blow. You won't notice it at the beginning of the game, but as you start to level up multiple heroes, or you get towards the end game and you start getting items that are going to be better and better, you will notice this. And the only way at the moment to increase your storage capacity is to spend money. And I do not expect this to change, because that's the way it is in the PC game as well. On top of that, they have changed the crafting system from the PC game to the PlayStation 4, and not for the better. This is one of the few changes they made, which I think is a very large step back, and also probably on purpose, specifically to fill up your storage and force you to buy more space. They increased the number of crafting components that are available in the game, and then they also increased the number of items that you have to get to upgrade your crafting systems and so on. It's very frustrating, and as a longtime player, it actually annoys me quite a bit. And that covers basically the payment scheme for the game. So let's actually talk a little bit about the game itself. We're now 7 minutes into this, so we might as well talk about the game, right? As an action RPG, this is quite a bit of fun. You're going to notice that it's a little bit slower than Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. Enemies are going to live a little bit longer, and there's less variety in the enemies that you'll fight, with the exception of the supervillains, because they actually have a very large roster of supervillains that you'll fight. Some of them are recognizable, some of them maybe a little bit more obscure. And the same is true of the heroes. As a player, you have a lot of options available to you, and this is one of the game's biggest strengths. And a lot of the heroes play very differently from each other. Some of them are melee combat focused, some of them are ranged combat, some of them are summoners, some of them do their damage with physical attacks, some of them use energy, a few even use mental attacks. So you will find that each character is different enough from other characters to give you a fairly unique experience, and you may actually want to try out characters that you've either never heard of or don't like in the comics or whatever, because they may actually be very fun to play as. In terms of interface, this game uses a very Diablo 3 style if you're used to the console version of that, with the wheel approach of looking at things. It is a little bit menu heavy, and navigating the menus is a bit of a pain. I think they could work on this a bit. Hopefully we'll see it updated and patched in the future and kind of streamlined a bit. But before they work on the UI, I think there are some technical issues with the gameplay itself that they still need to work out, primarily with frame rate. At this point, this game is rife with frame rate problems. Now, there's nothing too significant. You're not going to drop down to, say, 5 frames per second, but it is extremely noticeable, especially when there are a large number of enemies on screen or a large number of heroes fighting those enemies. This is exceptionally apparent in Midtown Manhattan when you get the villains popping up and all the heroes converge on that spot. The frame rate is highly inconsistent. Now, you'll also see this at times when you're picking up items or when you're moving around the map for no apparent reason. So far, it has never impacted my gameplay experience to the point where I felt that I had died or missed out on something because of frame rate problems. That might change when raids are introduced and timing is far more critical. But it is definitely a problem, it is definitely something they need to address, and it is definitely something that you need to be aware of. The load times, fortunately, were better than I was expected, but you can expect to sit around a bit, especially in certain areas where you'll be going in and out of rooms frequently. Overall, it is a good-looking game. It looks much better than it did when it launched on the PC in 2013. It may not look quite up to speed if you compare it to a top-of-the-line current PC build running it at 60 frames per second and 4K resolution, etc. But it's still going to look very good on your television. And of course, lastly, there is the transition of controls from keyboard and mouse to controller. It's a fairly good transition. You do lose a couple of things by losing the keyboard, but everything is mapped out in a fairly straightforward manner. It does take a little bit of getting used to if you're making the jump from PC. Overall, though, this is a solid port. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of content that you'll get up front for free, and whether or not you're jumping from PC or you're jumping into the game for the first time, there's a lot to like here. Having said that, if you have already put a lot of time into the PC version of the game, there's nothing new here. In fact, a lot of the things that we take for granted in the PC game are missing from this. For instance, team-ups, who are NPC companions who follow you around, and you can level them up, give them gear to enhance you, and give you additional storage space. Again, going back to that. The devs have said they want to bring those back at some point, maybe, but that's not firmly on the timeline. In addition to that, there's a large amount of content that's missing. I already mentioned Industrial City is missing, Hightown is missing, the raids are not there. Some of the one-shots are missing, but the terminals are still there, Midtown is still there, and of course the story mode is largely unchanged except for a new intro movie. And the other significant change that I can think of for this is that they changed the tiers of gear and how you acquire them. In the PC version you have regular gear, green gear, blue, purple, yellow, and then uniques. And uniques are specifically crafted for the hero that they're equipped on, whereas all the others are kind of randomly generated, and you may or may not get something that's useful to your character. The uniques are gone from the PlayStation 4 version. I will expect that they're coming back as Omegas, and that they're going to get replaced as Omegas in the PC version, but that has not yet happened. Instead, they've added another mid-tier item level in there. It's kind of a teal color. What this means for players is it's going to be very hard to itemize your characters properly if you're really looking to min-max them. Now, if you're just looking to enjoy the game, then it really doesn't matter that much. Now, in conjunction with this, there has also been a change to the difficulty, or at least there was at the start of the beta. They eventually removed this from the beta, but it's worth keeping in mind, and it's probably something they're going to put back in. In the PC version of the game, you have normal and super heroic, which is the hard mode, unlocked right from the beginning. You can switch between them pretty much whenever you want. And then there's another tier up, which is called Cosmic, and that's the next level of difficulty. You have to unlock it by beating a trial. Now, in the PlayStation 4 version of this, they originally asked you to do a trial to unlock the hard version, and it looks like that's still in, but you have to wait until level 60, whereas originally you could do it at level 11. And in addition to that, you still have to unlock the Cosmic mode, and the tiers higher than that. There's actually 5 of them according to the menu. Whether or not this will continue to change after the official launch, or if they're going to do away with it or mimic the PC version, we don't know yet. But based on what we've seen from the beta, you can expect that gear will be locked based on the difficulty, with the normal difficulty only getting up to this teal color, and then the heroic will get up to, say, Cosmic or something along those lines, and then higher tiers as you get harder difficulties. And of course, it is worth pointing out that the difficulty levels are completely optional. There is no game content locked behind higher difficulties. That may change with the raids. You might have to have certain difficulty levels unlocked to raid, but right now they're purely optional. Although it is worth pointing out that every single character has to unlock every single difficulty level, and some characters are better at unlocking cosmic difficulty than others. So if you are a hardcore gamer and you play games on the hardest difficulty all the time, you will have to work to get there in this game, and not necessarily in the way you want to. So let's boil this down then. Is Marvel Heroes Omega for the PlayStation 4 a game you should check out? Given that it is free, and given that you can experience the entire game from level 1 to level 60 plus whatever endgame content there is for free without spending any penny, I think it is absolutely worth at least trying out, especially if you like Diablo-style games. In the worst case scenario, you've wasted a bit of time and bandwidth downloading a game that you don't ultimately end up liking. In the best case scenario, you get to enjoy a fairly lengthy story mode without spending any money on it. If you do decide to spend money on it, I think the pricing for the characters is a little bit questionable. However, if the PC is anything to go by, there will be sales frequently in-game. Now, to be clear, any sales will involve the in-game premium paid-for currency, not the free currency that drops randomly throughout the game. And more than likely, sales will be buy one, get one free, but you don't get to pick what the free one is, and it might even be a character you already have. That is the model that they use most often in the PC version, and I expect that they will continue to use that in the PlayStation 4. They do occasionally have the more traditional 50% off sales, but they're normally in conjunction with a major event, such as the release of Thor Ragnarok later this year, or The Defenders or Punisher coming onto Netflix. You can probably expect a sale or something similar for characters related to those events. But with those exceptions, a straight money off the top sale is very rare, and I would not hold my breath for them. So it will really be up to you whether or not you want to hold out for these buy one get ones or 50% off sales. But keep in mind, they're rare. So given all of that, and given that there is no longer a closed beta to get access to which required a purchase, I think your best bet in most cases is going to be hold off on spending money until you know that you're going to invest time into this game as well. Jump into the game, try it out, play a character that you love, and then decide whether or not you think it's worth throwing the developers $10 or $20 or whatever you think is fair. Obviously, the more people that pay, the more likely we are to get additional content, but I've never personally felt that that's a selling point on its own. The idea that if I give you money, I might get content down the road. So you should only spend money on what you're getting now, not on what you might get later. So that is Marvel Heroes Omega for the PlayStation 4. It will be launching on May 23rd, 2017. If you have bought a pack either during the closed beta or in the run-up to the launch, you will get early access starting on May 19th, 2017. There is no server wipe at that point, so any content you unlock from that point forward is yours to keep. It is absolutely worth trying out as a free-to-play gamer. Maybe hold off on paying until you know whether or not it's your thing. Thank you guys for watching. If you found this helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button, and check back later for more content here on CoinOpTV.